My guest today on this broadcast is my good friend and world-renowned Google search engine optimization expert. This guy is the best in the world. No. He's the best in the universe. They might do Google on other planets. I'm talking about, wait do you see this guy? Here he comes. My friend, Greg Gifford. Hey, big guy.
Man, that intro puts a lot of pressure on me to perform because, like, if it's not awesome now, then that was false advertising and you're never going to have me back again.
Well, that's the truth. I mean, so we're expecting big things out of you. Tell me about your company.
So I'm at SearchLab Digital now. We are a boutique agency that does local SEO and PPC. We're probably at this point 50-60% car dealers, and then we have some attorneys and some medical stuff and other things too. But yeah, we just do SEO and get kick-ass results for our clients, and hopefully this COVID stuff blows over so I can start traveling again. I really miss the conference travel. It was something I really enjoyed, and when COVID hit and they started locking everything down earlier this year, I already had 26 conferences scheduled in 8 different countries. So it would have been an awesome year. And
I'll tell you, 26 conferences, 8 different countries.
Oh man, I was going to Russia and Singapore and Australia, and I was going all over the place to some really sweet places. And instead I got to stay in my house all year. So.
Oh, what a bummer, I'll tell you. But that's what it is. I mean, you spoke at a couple of my internet battle plans, probably 4 or 5 of them.
Bunch of them, yeah.
And you were always the star of the show. People had to hear what you had to say.
Oh, yeah. I always loved doing battle plans. They were fun shows. I kind of hope you guys decide to do them again. We talked about it. Maybe you won't, but I always loved them. They're always a blast.
Well, I got to tell you, this man, Greg Gifford, my friend, Greg is one of the most tattooed people in the world. Could never ever again.
There's a lot of people that have more than I do. I'll get there. It's just taking me some time.
He'll never again work in corporate America. That's what his tattoo artist told him. Now,
when I got this,
look at that. That's your latest. That's E.T. That's Elliot crossing the moon, right?
Yep.
Unbelievable. He has got movie characters all over the place. I mean, he's got James Bond. Well, who else you got?
It's turning into my tattoos are like a curse because I got Sean Connery tattooed on me. He passed away. I got Roddy Piper. Let's get in front of the camera where it shows up.
I see it. Yeah, I see Roddy Piper. Yeah, he passed away.
Got him tattooed. He passed away. Got Gene Wilder. He passed away. So now I've got Dan Aykroyd there. Hopefully he's with us for a while. I got Bruce Willis right there. He's with us for a while.
Don't ever get a Ziegler tattoo
on my leg. So all the Goonies people, we already
don't ever get a Ziegler tattoo. Okay, let's get down to business here. Google me this. Now Google is the be all, end all, do all of search engines. I mean, Bing, quit it. Get out of here. Google. Tell me what's new, what's important, what do dealers need to be focused on right now?
So the big thing is Google My Business. A lot of dealers have kind of just had Google My Business be an afterthought for quite a while. It used to be called Google Places. But that's your listing on Google, and it's your new homepage. I've been in automotive for nowhere near as long as you, but for many years now. And so I remember back when dealers first started getting on the internet, the kind of catchphrase was you got to have a sweet website, a cool website, because that's your new digital showroom. That's how you're going to impress your customers. And now it's Google My Business, because people don't have to go to your website to get your phone number. They don't have to go to your website to get your address. They don't have to go to your website to read testimonials. They don't have to go to your website to see pictures. Now that you can put products and inventory on there, they don't even have to go to your website to see your cars. So you've got to make sure that you've got a really killer experience there, especially in this COVID world, because COVID has changed auto buying behavior at a fundamental level. And so the dealers that are successful are the ones that have adapted and changed what they're doing. There's still way too many dealers out there, though, that are still, kind of saying, I can't wait for things to get back to normal. but now is the new normal. Even after COVID restrictions are lifted and we're all vaccinated and it's safe to all party together again, auto buying has changed at a fundamental level. So you've got to make sure
never, ever going to be that way again.
It won't. And so, you know, if you're watching this and you're a dealer that's hoping it goes back to that, you got to catch up to the times. And Google My Business is key. You've got to have a really optimized profile. There's some new features that they rolled out because of COVID. So there are some health and safety features where you can say, you know, you can highlight on your Google profile that masks are required, or that, you know, your staff gets regular temperature checks.
Sanitize the cars.
Yeah. And then they've got new hours available. So, you know, outside of the regular business hours, they've got a new additional hours feature. So if you offer pickup and delivery, or if you know, I know some dealerships offer special senior hours where, you know, seniors or high risk individuals that, you know, have asthma or, you know.
I wasn't aware of that. I know my grocery store does it, but dealerships are doing it.
Some dealerships are offering that, where, you know, for the first hour that they're open or the last hour that they're open, they only let in high risk individuals. That way they're making it safer for people in the community. So, you know, all of these things you can highlight on your Google My Business profile. And then the questions and answers section is huge, and a lot of dealers ignore that. So there's just a lot of stuff in there. You know, there's a big tip I've been given lately too is, you know, a lot of dealers complain that customers can upload photos and tag the dealership, and those photos show up on the dealership's GMB. Then the dealership can't figure out how to get rid of them, because unless you get that customer to take it down, that photo's there. But if the dealership uploads professionally shot high quality photos, those tend to supersede any of the user uploaded cell phone photos. Another important thing.
Let's back up 1 second.
Yep.
Okay. So let's say you got a hater.
Yep.
And the hater puts up a really bad review with photographs. Is that what we're saying?
So no, I'm talking about if I'm just at the dealership, I can take a picture and upload it and say that I'm at the dealership, and it just shows up in the photos. So, you know, use the Google My Business profile over to the side, and it has, you know, the name, address, phone number, and above it, it's got the map and the photos. It can show up in that photos area, even if it's not associated with the review. And the only way to get that taken down is to ask that customer to delete that photo, because it'd be like, I'm at the dealership, and so Google knows I'm at the dealership, and I take the picture and associate the dealership with it. Now it shows up on that Google.
I see what you're saying. Absolutely.
So the thing is, that's always going to be a cell phone picture. So Google can tell the difference between a high quality, you know, well-composed professional camera shot. So dealerships need to upload good quality photos that are high resolution to supersede those. Another really important thing is a lot of dealerships just upload photos once and never touch it again. You know, dealerships up north should be changing their photos out every season. So when it's snowy, photos on Google My Business should reflect what the dealership and what the lot looks like when there's snow on the ground, not when it's super sunny.
In the middle of the summertime, I see snow on the ground, no leaves on the trees.
Yeah. So you got to switch those out, and you could delete your photos and upload new ones. And another important thing lately that not many people are doing is upload COVID-related photos. So, you know, you've got pictures that show, you know, your service tech working on a car, or, you know, the cheesy stock image of I'm handing keys over and shaking hands with the customer, where that's not really right in today's world. So upload photos that show customers wearing masks and show customers at social distance, to know, so that anyone looking at the dealership knows, hey, these guys make you wear a mask and they're following the correct safety protocols, which, sure, hopefully all this is done in the next few months, but it's going to be at least through next summer before vaccines are available to most of the public. So do this stuff now during the holiday season. Close out the year strong. Upload good photos. Upload videos. You can upload videos now, and a lot of dealers haven't done that. And the size limit of video.
Google My Business videos.
Yeah. So you can upload a video as long as it's 30 seconds or shorter and 75 megabytes or smaller, which, guess what, just happens to be the file size of all of your commercials. So take all your TV commercials and put them on your Google My Business, because people are going to watch.
Let's slow down 1 second. Let's say we're completely uninitiated. Let's say we got a dealer out there that hasn't even built their Google My Business yet.
Yep.
Step one,
go to google.com/business, and it will ask you to sign in. You use your Google account to sign in. Once you sign in, it will, if you don't have anything in your account yet, say, hey, would you like to add a business? You type in the name of your business. If that business already exists on Google, it's going to say, is this the business you're talking about? And you say yes. If it's unclaimed, it will let you request a postcard from Google. Google will send you a postcard that's got a PIN number on it. That postcard will arrive in 12 to 14 business days, so weekends don't count. When you get that postcard, you go back to google.com/business, log in again, and it will prompt you with a place to enter that code. You enter that code, boom. Now you are the owner of that business listing, and you can go in and update information, upload pictures, and do all that. Now, if it has been claimed in the past, and this happens a lot with dealerships. So, maybe you went through a buy sell and the old owners didn't give you access, or maybe an internet sales manager back in the days, the guy that claimed it, and now he works at another dealership and you don't have control. You can go in and say, I want to add this business, and it'll say this business already exists. You can try to request ownership, and Google will send an email to the person that currently owns it. And that person has 3 days to respond to that email and either say, yep, sure, here you go, and ownership's just transferred to you, or they say no. Now, you don't know what that email address is, but I actually did this today for another dealership, and 5 minutes after I sent the owner request, that person answered back and said, nope, you can't have control of this listing, which is frustrating because nobody at the dealership has control of it, and we don't know who that person is because Google.
So the advice to dealers: don't let employees have ownership to any of your codes, any of your.
Here's another big one. This just happened today too. We've got a Kia dealer client. He sent us a message that said, and I don't remember what the name of the company is, but there's some company that has been part of this agreement with Kia Motors America that now is contacting every Kia dealership saying, hey, as part of this partnership, we're using Yext to control all of your Google My Business listings. So you need to make us owner of your Google My Business listing so that we can get information. And I'm like, oh, no, because you don't want anyone to have ownership of your listing except you. Your digital marketing agency shouldn't even have ownership. They should be a manager. But as soon as you give anybody ownership, because there's a designation of owner or manager or
so
whatever.
You can assign managers that have limited rights.
Yes. As soon as you give somebody ownership rights, they can kick you out. And I've seen this happen before. So the dealership will give somebody else ownership rights, and then that person kicks the dealership down to a management level, and the dealership can't do everything and doesn't own anything. You always want to be sure that only a dealership entity, whether it's the GM or the marketing person or the internet manager or whoever it would be, only someone at the dealership should have ownership of GMB, and you should actually very tightly control who has access to it, because there's a lot of times where, let's say you work with a digital marketing agency and you give them access, but you're not regularly checking who has access. And later on, you move on and you use a different agency, but that original agency is still connected. They could still come in and make changes. Now, most likely they're not going to do that maliciously, but what a lot of agencies do is use a tool like Yext that's an automated data feed. So let's say your past agency was using Yext or Moz Local or any of these feeds that feed automatic information to Google. You don't realize that that's there because it's not an obvious place to see what's connected. So now, a couple of years later, you're working at that dealership. You go in and all of a sudden your hours and your phone number are different, and it's an old tracking number that you guys don't use anymore. So now the Google number displayed on your listing rings to a number that doesn't work, and you're missing out on leads. And you're freaking out, and you go back in and you change it back, and then the next day it's back to the wrong hours and the wrong number, and you can't figure out what's going on. What's going on in the background is that feed is constantly sending the old information.
So the Yext feed, the old Yext feed, is still updating it to the old number.
And it's not just Yext. It could be Moz Local. It could be Bright Local. There's a lot of different services out there. It's not really the fault of Yext or the service. It's the fault of that old digital marketing provider didn't do a thorough job of canceling you in all of their services and left you in there. And you didn't do a thorough job of disconnecting their access to everything once you parted ways with them. And now it becomes this huge, huge headache.
This is some really great stuff, Greg.
So this dealership today, I was like, oh no, do not give them access. I don't care if Kia Motors is telling you to give them access. You don't do it, because you never want to give anybody ownership access. And luckily, because I speak at conferences all over the world, I know somebody really high up at Yext, and I sent them an email and I'm like, hey, by the way, here's an email that my client just got. I don't really know. I haven't used Yext in a while. I don't think that it's required for Yext to be a owner of a profile to be able to change things on the profile. They should just be able to be a manager. So I said, first of all, I don't think that's accurate. So if it's not accurate, you guys probably ought to tell this partner that's using Yext to not tell people inaccurate stuff. And B, if it is accurate, you guys need to update your system, because if you're telling me that anybody that wants to use Yext has to make Yext an owner of their profile, every single SEO in the world is going to go out there and say, don't use Yext because of that. But I'm fairly sure that that's not the case. So I think it's just that this provider is not well-versed in how Yext works.
Okay, we got a question on the screen.
What is the question? Is there an audit to see what service is connected and making those changes? Yes, there is.
Great question, Jennifer.
I have a link here. Hold on one second.
This guy is the guru. This is the
link
man.
Here. If I put something in chat, will it display on the screen?
Yeah, I believe it might. Give it a shot.
How do I do that? I can't type in chat. Where do I type in chat? I have host chat, the public thing. Hey, Briggs, how did you get that to show up on the screen?
I did.
Oh, you did?
You put it in chat. I can put it up there.
Where? I don't see where I can even type into chat.
Well, maybe you can't.
Well, heck, let me write it down.
Okay, what did you want to?
I'm gonna. Ooh, if I Facebook it to you, can you put it on the screen?
Not right this second, no.
Not right this second. Okay, I'm going to write it on a piece of paper then and hold it up so people can see it. There's a specific link that you have to go to that will show you what third-party tools have access to go to your GMB account.
Wow, so, you've got it. I can put it on the screen if you show it to me.
Okay, I will send it to you on Facebook Messenger. Hang on one second. I got to pop that browser open.
Okay. All right. Hope everybody's. Hey, we're getting a pretty good audience here.
Yeah, Briggs wants that link. I'm not surprised.
Jennifer Briggs, she's one of my posse.
All right. There, I just sent it to you. If you can put that. Oh, there we go. I'm sending it to Briggs, and she's going to post it in the. Sorry, Eric, we're getting there. We're doing it. There we go. Jim just shared it there. So
I just put it up there. I just put it up.
So you want to go to that link with the same account that owns your Google My Business listing. So whatever Google account owns the GMB listing, go to that link. And if you're logged into Google with that link, that will take you to a screen that shows every third-party tool that has access to change information on your Google My Business account.
That is huge. That is absolutely huge. There it is.
Besides that link, you also want to go into Google My Business, log into your dashboard, go to your listing, and then on the left side menu, go to the users section and see how many users are attached as well. Because this isn't going to show you if you gave access, like let's say I was your old digital marketing guy and you gave my email access as a manager of the page, that link that we just shared doesn't show that. That link only shows you tools that have a direct connection. So you want to check that, and you want to check your users page on a regular basis to make sure that you have it really tightly controlled.
Fantastic. That is worth the entire broadcast. Absolutely.
I'm glad I am living up to your intro then.
Okay. You're the best in the universe. They might do Google on other planets. So anyway, Google My Business. Get your Google listing secure. That's the first thing you're telling people right now.
Yep. So you want to go in, you want to claim it, you want to own it. Then once you own it, you want to make sure that all of the information is correct. So dealership name correct, dealership address correct. Check that the map pin is in the right location. Just because you have your address in there doesn't necessarily mean that the map pin will be correctly placed, especially if you're in like an auto mile situation where there's a lot of dealerships on the same street. The pin might actually end up in your parking lot and not on your building, which might end up making people go to your neighbor instead of you. So check pin location. You want to make sure you're choosing the right local phone number, really important. So if you're doing call tracking, put your call tracking number in as your top, like your primary phone number. That way, that's what's displayed to the public so that you can get your call tracking. And it's actually best practice to put a call tracking on your Google My Business. But you want to put your local phone number in as one of your 2 alternate phone numbers. That way, Google's algorithm sees consistency with all of the same local phone number on all of your directory listings. Then category choice is really important. A lot of dealers are just going to say, let's say you're a Ford dealer. A lot of dealers will just click Ford dealer and that's it. But you've got 10 category spaces, and there's a lot of categories that you can choose that are
like what? Like what?
Ford dealer, truck dealer, used truck dealer, used car dealer, all sorts of stuff. I did a video about it. I may gosh, I don't remember what the link is, but if you go to searchlabdigital.com/blog, every Tuesday, I do a weekly video series called Local Search Tuesdays, and it's short 3 to 5 minute videos of digital marketing tips. And because we have so many car dealers and because I've been in automotive forever, a lot of them are kind of dealership centric, dealership focused. So I did one that was probably March or April of this year. So you go back a couple pages on the blog, and there's one that talks specifically about here's what categories you should choose on your various listings. Because dealerships now, you should have your primary listing for the dealership. That is your sales information. Then you should have a separate listing for service and a separate listing for parts that are nested so that they show up as departments of the main listing. So each listing has to have unique categories. So your main listing should only be sales related. Service listing should only be service related. Parts should only be parts related. So that video lists out all the categories you should.
Now there's a question. Is the service department a separate business?
It is technically all the dealership, but Google has changed a lot of rules in the last year and a half.
I sort of knew that, yeah.
Yeah, specifically for car dealers. So even though that now the standard rule for Google My Business is that to be eligible for Google My Business, you have to have customers come to your place of business to do business, or you have to serve customers in a particular geographic area, like a plumber or an electrician. Those are the only business types that are eligible to have a Google My Business listing. Typically, if you have a Google My Business listing, you can have one listing for that business and that's it. But if you want to have separate listings, you have to have separate entrances and separate signage for each business. So
say that again.
The rule for Google My Business is you have to be a business that first of all applies. So either customers come to you or you go to customers in a particular area, then you have to have signage and a separate entrance. So if you're a service business like a plumber, that doesn't apply. But for a business like a dealership or a pizza delivery place or a bar,
a body shop, and you've got a service department,
you have to have a building with a separate entrance and a separate sign. Now, for dealerships, they've changed that rule because they understand that most dealerships have a front door that is customer facing, and either some dealerships may have a completely separate building for service, but a lot of dealerships service is just part of the same building and the service drive is through the back. And sure, if you know you're coming in for service, you can go straight to the service drive and talk to the service manager at the desk, but you still have a main entrance. And a lot of dealerships have a single phone number that you call, right? So Google has changed the rules for car dealers. Car dealers are eligible to have a separate listing for service and a separate listing for parts, even if there is not separate signage and a separate entrance.
With separate hours.
Well, and that's the thing. You do want to have those separate listings because what's the problem that dealers have complained about forever? My service department is operating at different hours than my sales team. So service department may open at 7 a.m. and close at 6 p.m., but sales starts at 9 and goes until 9. So customers get confused. So as soon as you have those set up correctly and nested so that when you're on the main listing, it says departments, Ford service, Ford parts. Now that main listing, when it displays the hours, it will say open today from 9 to 9, and then it'll have a little link that says more hours. When you click more hours, it now shows the Monday through Sunday hours for the sales, which is the main dealership. Then it will show parts department and service department hours separate. So it's a much better user experience too.
Fantastic. I knew to ask the right questions. I had a situation where my own Google listing, my own GMB got suspended.
So yeah, there's lots of different ways that can happen. There's two kinds of suspensions. There's what's called a soft suspension, where you know you're suspended, you get an alert that you're suspended, and it looks like you're no longer an owner of that listing, but the listing still shows up in searches. So you just don't have access to it, but it still shows up.
That wasn't what happened. No.
A hard suspension is your listing completely disappears from Google and doesn't show up in Google at all. That's a lot more extreme and a lot harder to recover from. There's a whole lot of different reasons it can happen, but most of the time it happens because sometimes it's because you have a listing and you're not really eligible. You're not a business type that's eligible to have a listing. So Google's going to suspend it because you shouldn't have had it in the first place. Most of the time, though, it's you have made an edit to your information that Google doesn't trust. So for one reason or another, you've gone in and said, hey, my address changed and it's this, but your website has a different address and all of your directory listings have a different, like everything matches except Google, and you come in and say it's different, then Google may suspend you. Also, what can happen is, let's say you're dealing with a group situation. So you've got 15 stores on one Google My Business account dashboard, and a marketing manager at the Ford store goes in and changes something and changes the name of the dealership to Gifford Ford dash the best used cars, or, the best place to buy an F-150 in Dallas. So they stuff in a bunch of keywords on the business name to try to get it to rank better. That's against the rules. So as soon as I make that change, that's going to get that Ford listing suspended, but it's also most likely going to suspend everything else in that account because I've made a change that Google doesn't trust. And so it's going to say this user is doing questionable things. And so the other stores could get suspended even though nothing actually happened there. So
see, that's what happened to me. It was an address change that we didn't change the address on some other things that Google was looking at.
So yeah, most of the time you can just apply for reconsideration and Google support will then go in and look at it. Because most of the time when you're suspended, it's not a person suspending you, it's just algorithmic. So then you can go in and say, hey, look, I don't know why I'm suspended, or I fixed my, I put keywords in, I didn't know I couldn't do that, so I took them out. Can you please put me back? And then they'll unsuspend your listing. The important thing here, though, is there is a forum for Google My Business. So it's the Google My Business forum for people to go in and ask questions, because their Google My Business support is pretty lacking in general times. And during COVID, it's just very delayed. And it kind of depends which support rep you talk to, whether they're going to tell you the right thing or not. So you go to this Google My Business forum. The forum is not staffed by Google employees. It's staffed by volunteers and people like me that just go in and volunteer their time to answer people's questions. Now, anybody can answer questions in there, but when you get to a level where you've consistently answered questions correctly and consistently answered at a certain volume, you become what's called a product expert. So I just got brought into the product expert program. I'm a silver product expert. There's a bronze level below me. I skipped bronze, went right to silver because they know who I am.
Wait a minute, is there a bigger level than you?
There is. There's above. No. There's gold. And then above that is diamond. I'll be there eventually. It's just, I didn't even mess around. This has been around for forever, but I just never took the time to mess with it until this year.
And you're a lowly silver?
Yeah, well, because you can't jump right to the high levels. You have to start off. I jumped bronze and went straight to silver. But once you get to the gold level, you actually sign an NDA with Google, and Google will bring you to Google headquarters. You get to meet with the Google My Business team. You get all sorts of like really special access, which is why you have to sign the NDA. But then at that point, those product experts can take a forum post and forward it directly to a Google employee. So it's not the lowly random.
So if you go on that, what is that platform again? How do you get there?
Just do a search for Google My Business Forum.
Google My Business Forum.
And you go in there and you can, so if you have any sort of an issue or a problem with a suspension, or like Briggs said, if you've got, if you're locked down with third parties, but your hours are constantly changing, then what? Briggs, talk to me because I can help you probably figure that out without posting. But if you're a dealership out there and you're watching this later and you can't figure out why something's happening, or you get suspended, or maybe you've got departments listed incorrectly, then you can go post on the forum. And then once a senior level enough product expert sees it, if it's really an issue and it's not something that's just like, oh, you didn't go through the right channels to fix this, here's how to go fix it, but it's really a bug or really a problem, then they can escalate it to internal Google support, which is a different team than the support team that answers you when you send in an email or whatever. So a lot of times,
this is a great interview. I am so appreciative.
Fixed really easily there. And so because of the fact that I'm on there, I mean, I spend at minimum half an hour a day. And sometimes when I've got a slower day, I'll spend 3 or 4 hours in there answering questions. And so suspensions are a really big issue. Verifications are a big issue. Most of the time when I see dealerships posting in there, it's dealerships having a problem with those nested listings, those parts.
So the Google My Business forum, some of those diamonds and golds that can actually make changes with Google representatives are hanging around as well.
Changes. None of us have access.
They can request changes.
But they can directly get a Google person to see that issue.
They can get a Google person to look at it and respond to it.
Yep.
If it has merit. That is strong.
So there's a lot of advantage to being, I mean, part of the reason I got in that program is because I just want to get to a level where I can sign that NDA and get a free trip to Google headquarters, because, hey, that's cool. But also to have that really superior level of the really intricate bugs and wonky things that might happen, because then that helps us be better for our clients. And, a lot of the digital marketing providers in automotive don't really know what they're doing. I don't want to name names, but there's a really, really, really big provider that hasn't updated their SEO strategies in about 6 or 7 years. And considering that last year alone, Google rolled out over 3,000 updates to its algorithm, a 5 or 6 year old or even a 2 or 3 year old SEO strategy isn't going to help a dealership. So it's important to really kind of keep up with the changes that are happening. The COVID stuff we were talking about earlier is a perfect example. There's a lot of providers out there that don't do anything with questions and answers, or any, don't tell dealers put up COVID pictures, or don't tell dealers to do this. And it's unfortunate the way that SEO has kind of become commoditized in the automotive industry, because it's not really in the best interest of most dealers.
Okay, Google My Business. What else do they need to know?
Let's see. What else could we cover? The questions and answers section is a big thing I like to talk about lately. It showed up about 2 years ago, but there's still tons of businesses out there and a lot of dealerships out there that don't know that it exists. The weird thing, and the reason most dealerships don't know it exists, is most dealerships don't look at the public-facing Google My Business profile. They're only going to look at Google My Business through the dashboard. And the questions and answers feature is actually an element of Google Maps that just gets displayed in Google My Business. You can't see it from inside the Google My Business dashboard. And most people, the general public, think that it's an instant messaging system where you ask a question and it's like a direct message to the dealership. But it's actually a community discussion feature. So anybody can ask your dealership a question, and any random person out there can answer that question for you. And the answers are usually not the best answers. The other thing is, I did some research back when I worked at DealerOn, and we found that up to 40 to 45% of the questions being asked were leads. It's people with service problems. One guy's like, my car just overheated. I need to get it towed to the dealership and get it fixed. What's your phone number? Now, clearly, the guy could have seen the phone number, because the button that you click to type in your question is maybe an inch away from the button that, or from the phone number that's listed, that if you're on mobile, you could click the phone number, or they could click through your website and get the phone number there. But again, they think it's an instant messaging feature, so they ask it there. And like 6 months later, the dealership never even saw the question or answered it. So a lot of dealerships,
in other words, they need to check their Google My Business regularly to see what content.
The dealerships are checking their dashboard. They're not looking at the public-facing Google My Business. The only way that you know that new questions are asked is if you've got the Google Maps app on your phone and you're logged into that with the account that owns the Google My Business, which isn't really going to happen in most real-world cases. So typically, you're going to have to use a third-party tool that's going to monitor that for you and let you know when those questions come in. So another side of it is, questions can get multiple answers. I've seen questions that have 300 or 400 answers just to one question. And the answers can get little thumbs up. So the answer that has the most thumbs up or the most upvotes is the one that's displayed as the primary answer. So when you click, this dealership has 15 questions, and you click to see what the questions are, it's going to show you the question and one answer. Even if there's multiple answers, that one answer is the one that has the most thumbs up, which if the dealership's not paying attention, even if the dealership goes in and answers that question, somebody else may have more thumbs up and that dealership answer is going to be buried. So you've got to monitor it to know when new questions come in. And you also have to monitor it to make sure that you're upvoting your own answers to make sure that your answers appear as the primary answers.
Interesting. Oh,
and then
man.
the other thing is you want to upload, we call it setting up a pre-site FAQ, because you want to upload all your own common questions. You're allowed to, and actually Google tells you to upload your common questions. So an
frequently asked questions, FAQ.
Yeah, so your FAQ page isn't going to do any good on your site. So take those questions that customers are asking all the time, load them into the questions and answers section on Google My Business. And again, you have to do this out in the public facing. Just do a Google search for your
Go
dealer.
to the public facing. Don't do it in your dashboard.
Click ask a question, type your question in. Once you've got all the questions entered, come right back with the same account that owns it. Because if you do it as some other personal account, it'll just say that that person answered it. If you do it with an account that owns or manages the GMB, it will say that the dealership answered, and then it says owner in parentheses. So then you want to answer all your questions. Because the really cool thing is, if I come in as a customer, maybe the dealership has 50 questions that have been asked in the past, but I'm too lazy to go click and read through all of them because, again, I think as a customer, if I click ask a question, that it's going to be an instant message question to the dealership. So I click ask a question. I start typing that question in. Let's say my question is, do you guys offer loaners when I come in for service? Well, if that's a common question and the dealership has already loaded in a question that says, do you offer loan vehicles or loaners when you come in for service? And the answer is, yeah, we provide loaners. All you have to do is call for an appointment, blah, 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 blah. As I start typing in, do you offer a loaner V, and start typing that, Google's going to go, that closely matches this other question. And it's going to automatically display the answer to that question because that question's already been answered. So now I don't have to ask that question anymore. It got answered for me, which is why it's so important to put all of those common questions in.
Jennifer's got something.
No, Jennifer, you cannot get those with Google Alerts. You have to use a third-party tool to monitor those.
Fantastic. This is, I knew when I asked you to come on, it was going to be this powerful. What other SEO tricks besides Google My Business do we need to talk about?
Reviews are really important. It's kind of part of Google My Business, but Google looks at it as a different signal. So it's incredibly important to have a really proactive review strategy in place. You've got to ask every customer for a review. And for years, I have said this, and every time I say this at a conference, some dealer says, I don't want to ask everybody for a review because I'll start getting a lot of bad reviews. The answer to that is, if you're worried about that, you probably have a problem with your dealership that you need to fix before you start asking for reviews. The other thing,
let me tell you, a year ago, I was at an oil change, a Valvoline oil change. And, you sit in your car, they change your oil, and, and the guy says, Mr. Ziegler, do you have a cell phone? I said, yes, sir. He said, would you pull up? And he took me to their maps and had me put a review right then on Google.
Right.
While I'm sitting in the car. Why don't we do that in the
or after?
What's that?
Did you already have the oil change done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and, he said, if you feel that we were fast and you feel that we were a good experience, he didn't coach me what to say, but said, if you feel this, and it was amazing. Why don't we do that in the finance office just before delivery?
So at that point, it's not a good time to ask because
when is
before delivery? I haven't gotten the car yet. And at that point, we all know most dealerships still haven't got it figured out. And if I want to come in and buy a car, I'm at the point that I am at the finance office, I've probably been sitting there for a few hours and I'm probably agitated and I'm ready to get my new car and get out of there. The right point to do it is at the point of delivery, where you're giving them the keys to the car and they're about to drive off.
Okay.
And the sales guy says, hey, the sales guy's going to do this anyway if they're even a halfway decent sales guy. And if you follow Jim Ziegler's training, you're going to know to do this. You want to thank every customer at that point. You want to say, hey, you're driving off in your new car. Thanks for doing business with us. We've got service. Come back and see us. All those things. And that's when you go, also, by the way, we'd love to get a review and know what your experience was like today. So if there's anything we can improve, we know about it. And if you're happy, we can share that with other customers. And then you either give them a business card, you send them an email link. Typically, we like to set up a page on the dealership site that's just dealership.com/reviews. So every single employee at the
dealership.com.
Well, I mean, whatever. I mean, like GiffordFord.com/reviews or Ziegler kia.com/reviews. So it's a simple URL that every employee knows, and every employee can tell anybody to go leave a review there. Then on that page, you have messaging that says, hey, thanks for doing business with us today. Let us know how we did. And Briggs said they're talking about CSI surveys. Yeah, they're going to get surveys from the OEM, and doesn't matter. You send them to that page to ask how you did. That page says, thanks for doing business with us. Let us know how we did today. Leave a review on the review platform of your choice. Then you give them links: Google, Facebook, Yelp, DealerRater.
No, don't give them.
But you can't ignore Yelp, because any customer that looks up directions to your dealership on an iPhone, Apple Maps uses Yelp for review stars, not Google. So I've seen tons of dealerships that have amazing scores on Google, but a 1-star rating on Yelp. So what if somebody pulls up directions on Apple Maps and sees that you have a 1-star? They may not come see you anymore. So you have to pay attention to it. But you have that page that then lets them use the place of their choice. So you're not pushing everybody to Google, and it's a more natural pattern because it gets spread out. That's the right way to do things. So here's an advanced level tip. The keywords in a customer review can help you rank better. So let's say you're wanting to rank for used cars Dallas, and you're a dealership that's just outside of Dallas. So you're trying to expand your reach. If this customer says, this is the, I drove 20 minutes to come here past a bunch of other dealerships because Gifford Ford is the best place to buy a used car in Dallas, that's going to help me rank better for a search phrase of used cars Dallas. Now, the thing is, you can't tell customers what to write because that's against Google's terms of service. And it's actually really kind of pushing the boundaries of breaking FTC law. But since we're setting up that page, that /reviews page, it says, thanks for doing business, let us know how we did. You can do a Jedi mind trick and suggest what people should write. I did a video about this too. So go to the blog, search through it, find that video. But basically you would, after saying, thanks for doing business with us, leave us a review, then ask a question. Hey, if you're not sure what to write in your review, here's some things that might help. And then you bullet point some things. Did you buy a new car or a used car? Who was the salesperson that helped you today? What was your favorite thing about the dealership today? So that question, did you buy a new car or a used car? And you ask these questions that are going to get in their head. And as I write that review, instead of just saying, yeah, it was great, I love these guys, they just asked me a question. Did I buy a new car or a used car? So I'm going to be, I just bought a used car here and it was an awesome experience. Boom, I've got that used car keyword in there. Jedi mind trick.
That is a Jedi mind trick. I love it.
And it's only keywords in the review, not in the response. I was talking to someone earlier today who may or may not be listening and watching and commenting right now, who was telling me that they have a review company, a reputation management company working for the dealership that they chose to use because that person said that they had SEO optimized review responses, which is a load of bunk because there's no such thing as an SEO optimized review response. The keywords and the responses do not matter for SEO. It's the actual review that matters.
Fantastic. This is one heck of a, by the way, I'm going to put this on my Alpha Dawg on demand platform. So a lot of people have seen this, so here's another cool advanced level tip. I usually don't talk about this with car dealers, but you're my boy, so I'm gonna share some good stuff today. We're talking about seeding questions into the questions and answer section, loading those common questions. If you want to get really aggressive and really awesome at that, go check out the questions that customers are asking your competitors, because those are questions that customers need an answer to. And if they're asking your competitors, they probably have the same question for you. So it's a really cool thing to do, to check out all the questions that people are asking other dealerships in town. Check out your competitors
and then load
my business.
Yeah, and then load those questions into your profile and answer those questions. So that way, if that customer happens to come to you and ask the same question, boom, that question is going to be answered automatically, and they're more likely to call you.
So the frequently asked questions is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge deal.
Greg, this has been an incredible interview. What else do we need to know?
Big thing is website content. At a basic level, when we're thinking about showing up in searches, you want to think about the fact that if you want to show up for a particular search phrase, something that someone might type in to look for something related to your dealership, you need a page on your website about that concept. It doesn't have to be down to a keyword to keyword level. Google understands that car dealer is the same thing as car dealership. So you don't have to get that granular like you used to, 10, 15 years ago. But this is a great example of, a lot of dealerships wonder why they don't show up well compared to the Jiffy Lubes and the quick lube shops for oil changes and tire rotations and things like that. And that's because if you go look at those sites, they've got information about all the services that they provide. Most dealerships don't have any fixed ops content at all. They're going to have a service and parts link on their main menu that goes to a service scheduler form, but that service scheduler form is iframed in. So it's not even actually on your website, and Google sees that as a blank page. And there's not any actual text content on your site. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to dealers that are like, man, we just don't, we're dying on fixed op stuff. We don't show up in searches at all. And we go through and we do a crawl of their website with some of our tools. And I'm like, yeah, you know why you don't show up for oil changes? And they're like, yeah, why? And I'm like, because you don't mention the word oil change anywhere on your site. So for each of those services, you need a separate page. You need an oil change page, a wiper, battery replacement, tire rotation, all those things. You need pages for that content. Another big thing, dealerships like to say that they sell pre-owned vehicles because that just has a nicer ring than saying you sell used cars. The problem is nobody in the real world goes to Google and says, I need to find a place to buy a pre-owned vehicle in Dallas. They look for used cars. That's the phrase that the world uses. So dealers have to get out of their head and take the blinders off. You don't want to optimize your site around the terminology and lingo that we use in the business. Like, would you ever put your financing link on your website and just call it F&I? Anybody in auto would know what that is, but the general public would be like, I don't know what the hell F&I is. Same thing. You don't put pre-owned or pre-owned inventory or pre-owned vehicles because you're optimizing around the phrase pre-owned vehicle or pre-owned inventory. You want to put used cars, and that page needs to be optimized around used cars so that you show up for used cars. So there's a lot of things like that dealerships get wrong.
How about this one? How about this? Check engine light.
That's a great one. We had a client that we worked with a couple of years ago when I was working at Dealer On. We had a VW client that came to us from another provider, and they had a page on their site that was, here's what all of the dashboard warning lights mean.
Wow.
It was a massive graphic. So Google can't read text that's inside of an image. So Google and there was no text on the page. It was just a graphic embedded on the page. Now, as a human, you can go to the page and read it and it's fine, but Google doesn't see it, so it didn't do well. We saw that page, we're like, wow, this is a great idea. This is good information. So we cut it up in Photoshop, just put in the picture of what the dashboard light looked like, and then put actual text on the page of here's what this light is, here's what this light is.
Check engine light. How many people search for check engine light?
Exactly. So within about a week and a half, they started getting ridiculous, like 12 to 15,000 hits a month just to that page. So we start looking at rank tracking tools. And to us, it looked like that page was ranking #1 everywhere in the world for VW dashboard light and VW warning light. I actually tested it when I was at a conference in the UK, and I tested it at a conference in Europe, and it did. It ranked #1 worldwide for VW dashboard light, VW warning light. Now then, the dealer got pissed and said, hey, we need to take this page off of our site. And we were like, are you crazy? And they said, yeah, it's getting, 12,000, 13, 14,000 visits a month to this page, and it's not converting. And we're like, that doesn't matter. You're getting tons of traffic to your site. And they're like, yeah, but it's all international traffic. And we said, no. And they said, okay, well, yeah, like 20% of it is local. And I'm like, okay, look, let's make the math easy. Let's say it's 10,000 visits a month to this page, and only 20% are local visits. That's 2,000 visits a month that we're getting to your website that you weren't getting before. That's 2,000 people that mostly are unique every month that have a service issue because they're wondering what these service lights are, and they're coming to your site. Who cares if there's another 8,000 that are not in your area? And the dealer's like, I don't care. It messes up my analytics. And we're like, oh, let me create a filtered view that cuts that other traffic out so you're not worried about it. But they were getting links to this, so that was like hugely valuable for SEO, and the dealer wanted to get rid of it, which was crazy.
Yeah, check engine light. That's always been on the top of my head. Why is that not incorporated into every dealer's SEO under their websites, everything?
I mean, there's a Kia dealership that we worked with that, usually when, we create what we call model research pages, and most people call them that, where it's, a page about that particular model that is almost like a digital brochure. It's interior features, exterior features, drivetrain, technology, safety, pictures of the car. So it's early funnel searches. I'm just deciding I want to buy an SUV. I'm not sure what brand I want to buy. I've never driven an SUV before. So I'm doing research and I'm like, oh, I hear that the Kia Telluride is cool. So I look up Kia Telluride, Dallas, Texas, and that Kia dealership has one of these model research pages that's good content and well optimized. That's going to show up. Now, it's not going to convert because I'm early in the buying process. I don't even know what I'm going to buy yet. But what it does is it gets me exposed to that dealership and makes it a hell of a lot more likely I'm going to come back and buy from that dealership later, right? So typically we're going to optimize these all around whatever location that dealership is in. So if you're in Dallas, you want to optimize it for Dallas. We did one, and we just did a kind of an experiment for this dealership that we noticed there wasn't much information about the Kia Soul that was good, and there wasn't anything out there, and there's people out there that will tow these mini trailers with their Kia Soul. So we did this model research page about the Kia Soul and had a section on it about Kia Soul towing capacity, because the Kia Soul can actually tow up to 2,000 pounds. And so had all this information. Now, if you go Google Kia Soul towing capacity, this guy gets the rich snippet. Now, the rich snippet, for those of you that don't know what it is, it's that answer box that appears above the Google search results. So it's not ranked number 1. It's ranked number 0. It's above it. It's
yeah. So wait, I've always seen that box. What's it called?
A rich snippet.
The rich snippet.
Some people call it an answer box. But yeah, so we actually have that. So anywhere in the US that you search Kia Soul towing or Kia Soul towing capacity, our dealership pops up for that, which is great. That's good. That's awesome stuff. Now, can you do that for every Kia dealer? Obviously not. It's only going to be one dealer that shows up there. But it just shows you the power of you. Dealers have to think, I talk to dealers all the time. They're like, I don't want anything on my site that's not going to lead to a direct conversion for sales. That's not true, because buying a car, it's the second biggest purchase somebody's going to make in their lifetime, but behind their house. They're going to do a lot of research. We all know that the buying process is a long, drawn-out process. If everything led to a conversion, that means people would get on Google, find your site, call you and buy a car all in one day. And it doesn't happen. We know they're going to come to your site 10 to 15 times before they even submit a lead. So you need content out there that's going to answer the questions that customers are going to be asking. That's the way to show up in Google. Think about what are the questions that a potential customer are going to ask about this car or about this service that I offer, and make sure that the content on your site answers those questions. And that's the big problem, because auto is a weird vertical where we have these OEM approved vendors, and there's certain vendors that are proprietary website platforms, and you're going to go switch and get on that platform and you get just the default text because you have to pay extra for specialized content, or you have to hire an SEO company for specialized content, which a lot of dealers don't do, which means your About Us page, your homepage, your service page, your financing page is the same content that's on 10,000 other websites. And that's not going to answer the question that potential customers are going to be asking. No. So it really comes down to that. Answer the question that potential customers are going to be asking, and that's how you show up better in searches.
Fantastic. This interview that I'm doing with you is going to be on my platform, alphadogondemand.com. And anybody, this is my training platform. It's virtual. And I'll tell you right now that we got a 3-day special running. And anybody that signs up for alphadawg.com, put your credit card in, and we won't hit your credit card. It's a month to month. For 3 days, if you can cancel anytime in the first 3 days, we won't even charge you. AlphaDawgOnDemand.com. My friend, Greg Gifford. Greg, you and I could talk for hours.
We could. I love talking about this stuff. And I love talking to you too. I mean, we could go off on a tangent and not even talk about SEO. So
yeah, you and I have been friends for a couple of years now. We know each other well. I've got your number across the bottom of the screen. Do you mind if people call you?
I do not mind at all. Call me if you've got questions, or if you prefer email, it's really easy. It's just greg@searchlabdigital.com. So
greg@searchlabdigital.com.
Happy to answer anybody's questions. I'm not a sales guy, so if you call me with an SEO question or a Google My Business question, I'm not going to turn that into, hey, let me give you a demo and show you what we can do. Like, I'm out there. I'm just happy to help.
Well, listen, big guy, anytime I can help you, you know I'm here for you.
Yep.
And this is my friend, Greg Gifford, searchlabdigital.com.
Yep.
And there's his phone number across the bottom of the screen. Greg, thank you. This has been a fantastic interview.
Thanks for having me. It was fun to do it.
Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dawg. We got a spectacular session for you today. It's gonna be Gifford, the Joker, and me. Google me this.